Did Jesus ever exist? 10 biblical lies that collapse Christianity, and the church knows it. Billions believe he walked the earth, performed miracles, and died for the sins of humanity. But what if that story is not history, but mythology? What if the very foundation of Christianity is built on lies, distortions, and borrowed myths? Today, we dive into the 10 biblical lies that collapse Christianity and ask the dangerous question, did Jesus ever even exist? If Jesus truly performed miracles, shook empires, and had thousands of followers, why is history silent about him? No Roman historian of his time records his crucifixion. Philo of Alexandria, who wrote extensively about Jewish life in that exact era, never mentioned him. The Gospels were written decades later, not by eyewitnesses, but by anonymous authors. The first lie? That the Bible is a direct historical record. In reality, it is theology, not history. The Church claims Jesus was born of a virgin, fulfilling prophecy. But ancient myths already told the same story long before Christianity. Egyptian Horus, Persian Mithras, even the Greek god Dionysus were said to have miraculous births from virgins or divine unions. The virgin birth wasn't original. It was recycled mythology designed to give Jesus divine status. The second lie? That his birth was unique. Christians believe Jesus was born in Bethlehem to fulfill prophecy, but both Matthew and Luke twist geography to make that happen. Scholars argue Jesus, if he existed, was likely from Nazareth, and the Bethlehem story was added to make him fit Old Testament prophecy. The third lie? That prophecy proves Jesus, when prophecy was rewritten after the fact to legitimize him. What about Jesus' childhood, teenage years, or his 20s? The Bible is silent for nearly 3 decades of his life. Some argue that's because the story wasn't history, it was constructed later. Pagan gods also had silent years, where no details were given, only sudden appearances as teachers or miracle workers. The fourth lie? That silence equals mystery, when in fact it looks more like invention. The crucifixion is central to Christianity, but again, crucified saviors were nothing new. Attis of Phrygia, Osiris of Egypt, and Dionysus were all depicted as dying and rising gods centuries before Jesus. The story of a god who suffers, dies, and rises again was a common ancient template. The fifth lie? That the crucifixion was a unique event in history? It was simply a myth retold in new clothes. The resurrection is presented as the ultimate proof of Jesus' divinity. But Paul, the earliest Christian writer, never described an empty tomb. He spoke only of visions and revelations, not a physical resurrection. The empty tomb narrative appears later, decades after Paul, showing signs of legendary development. The sixth lie? That Jesus physically rose from the grave. Earliest Christians only claimed visions, the kind anyone could experience in dreams or trances. Walking on water, feeding multitudes, healing the blind. Classic miracle stories. But these miracles are suspiciously similar to earlier pagan myths. In Greek and Egyptian stories, gods also turned water into wine, calmed storms, and fed thousands with divine power. These miracle tales were not eyewitness reports, but mythic tropes designed to elevate Jesus. The seventh lie? That miracles prove his divinity. They only prove storytelling. Here's the shocking truth. Paul never met Jesus. His letters describe a purely spiritual Christ, not a man who walked in Galilee. Paul never mentions Bethlehem, Mary, Joseph, or most gospel details. To Paul, Jesus was a cosmic being revealed through visions. This means the earliest Christianity wasn't based on history. It was based on mystical belief. The eighth lie? That the Gospels and Paul describe the same Jesus. They don't. The Bible we know today is the product of centuries of editing, censorship, and political manipulation. Passages were forged, verses added, and inconvenient writings destroyed. For example, the famous line in Josephus's writings about Jesus is widely considered a later Christian interpolation. Even the Trinity was never taught by Jesus. It was forced into doctrine at the Council of Nicaea. The ninth lie? That the Bible is pure and untouched. In reality, it's edited propaganda. And the final and greatest lie was that Christianity was about truth. In reality, it was about power. The story of Jesus was shaped, edited, and weaponized to build the Roman Church. Pagan festivals became Christian holidays. Pagan gods became saints. The myth of Jesus became the glue that held an empire together. The 10th lie? That Christianity is divine revelation. It was political invention. So, did Jesus ever exist? Maybe there was a preacher, a rebel, or a mystic whose story was exaggerated. Or maybe Jesus was never a historical man at all, just another dying and rising God adapted from pagan myth. What is certain is this: the Jesus of Christianity, as taught in churches today, is not history. It is mythology. And here's the most explosive part. The church knows it. They've buried inconvenient truths, silenced critics, and banned texts that challenge their narrative. Because if the truth gets out, if Jesus was never real, or at least never as described, the foundation of Christianity collapses overnight. The question is not just, did Jesus ever exist? The real question is, how long can the church keep hiding the truth?